What's up, everybody? I decided to do another part to the wide body kit installation. I had talked about whether I was going to do it or not, but I decided to go ahead and get it out there. Maybe get a few tips and tricks on how I did this. So basically what I'm going to talk about in this video is the fiberglassing of the inner fender well. And so if you've seen the previous videos, and if you haven't, I suggest you go see those so that you'll know how we got to this point. But if you have seen those, basically the situation, we had to cut the fender well all the way around, and then we had to put slits in it to raise it up so that we would have clearance. And basically, instead of this fender well curving like this, which is what it originally did, it now goes flat so that the tire has plenty of travel and you can lower the car or whatever you need to do. I've probably got a lot more travel than I'll ever need, if I'm being honest, but what you're left with under there is those slits, which open up areas for water to get into your interior, your back seat, and your trunk. If we actually look, I'll show you here in the trunk what those slits look like. There they are. You can see they're all the way around. They go all the way to the other side. There's the passenger side, same way. And like I say, all we did was raise that metal up. It was curving down before, now it's up so that we have more clearance. And so you have to basically cover those holes. What you decide to do in the trunk is up to you. I'm probably just going to put the kill mat over that to cover those slits, but that doesn't matter. What matters is getting it sealed from underneath here so that water can't get in. And so that's what we've done. We've took our fiberglass mat material and we've put it all the way around. I know that it looks like those slits are still there, but you can just see through them, but there is a fiberglass material. And how I achieved this was not by just putting one long piece all the way around. That's the way that you would think you would want to do it, but let me assure you that's very messy and will not work. And so I use this kind of fiberglass mat here. I do not like the strand style because it just comes apart. This holds together a little better. You will get little strands that hang off, and those will catch and pull back off, so you have to be careful. But basically I took that, I cut it into 6 or 8 inch long pieces, about as long as what you see here, and then I dipped those down into my fiberglass resin, and I was wearing gloves. I recommend, if you're gonna get gloves, grab a couple of pairs of like kitchen gloves, the yellow gloves that go longer on your hand, because that fiberglass will go everywhere and it'll wind up above the gloves and on your hand. But essentially I just dipped it in there, got it saturated, and then stuck it up there and started taking my hands and just working it into all the cracks and crevices and getting it as tight to the fender as I could, so that we can seal all of those holes. I will have to come back and potentially do a second layer. I still got to do the driver's side. I haven't even started on it yet, but I'll probably do 2 layers of the matting and then 1 or 2 layers of just straight resin, which I'll apply with a brush for the finishing of it. And then my plan is to use Raptor liner in a spray can, which I have over here. I had bought for a different project and I wound up never using it. So I've got this. That should be enough to do both of the rear fender wells. You can see underneath here we still have some of the rubberized undercoating, and so that stuff is really, really bonded to this car. I grinded off as much as I could with the grinder, especially in the areas where we're doing the fiberglass. Some of it was loose and came right off, and some of it just is stuck on there. And so the pieces that are stuck, I'm not too worried about, because this fiberglass is going to cover them, and I'm not going to have any issues of this stuff coming back loose. But that's what I did. And then when I do the Raptor liner, it'll be easy to blend this in, cover all this, and it should be pretty close to all being one texture. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect. You can't see it. Once you have the wheel on the car, you can barely see in there to see anything. And so we'll see. I may wind up trimming this little edge off over here. Just depends on how much you can see it with the tire on. But I originally used that so that I could help line up where these body panels needed to be, but it no longer really has to be there, so that might get cut out. I'll have to do it with like a Ziz wheel or something and refiberglass that area. No big deal if we do, but that's just something that I may or may not decide to do. The back is fine. It had already been cut, and I had already cut the other side on the back as well, but I never did the fronts, just so I could keep that reference point of where this thing needed to be at. But like I say, I'll probably take that out just for appearance wise. I think you could probably see it in front of the tire, but that's just another tip that you may want to do once you have your body kit lined up. Maybe go ahead and cut that while this is not bonded to the car. It'll be easier. I should have done it, but I didn't think about it. And by the time I realized it, I already had this thing bonded. But again, it's not going to be that hard to remove that. Didn't even think about it, honestly, until I was already fiberglass in that area, and then I, noticed it. So that's another trick. The fronts do not need any fiberglass. I think everything is fine. Under here, you can see where it doesn't quite cover. Like I told you, I wanted to cut back so that it would be flush, but you can't because of this panel here. And I've got to make sure all this is sealed off good. But the front is fine. I can actually get paint in there, so I'm just gonna sand everything. Not sure if I want a Raptor line under here or not, but same thing over here. You got a little bit of room, but again, I can get paint or whatever if I decide to do Raptor liner. Or maybe I'll order another can and just go ahead and do the front as well and have all of that protected from the elements. But there is no bare metal, or should I say there will be no bare metal exposed underneath any of these fender flares. Everything is either covered in panel bond, fiberglass, or Raptor liner. So no worries about rust in that category. But anyway, that's going to wrap it up for this video. I'm still waiting for the panel bond to dry before I can do any body work, or before I can even remove the screws holding it on. The panel bond is supposed to stay on the car and cure for at least 24 hours at a steady 72 degrees. We've been dropping below 72 degrees at night here, so it's going to take a little bit longer for it to cure. I could, if I wanted to, heat the shop up and cure it faster with heat, but I would rather just let it cure on its own, even if it takes a little longer, just so that there's no chance of it trying to warp and potentially crack. So that's what we're trying to avoid. But I do want to get at least one good heat cycle on it once it is cured. After the 24 hours, I may close up the shop and run this heater for an hour or so. It does have a temperature setting on it, so I can set the temperature, and obviously I won't be in here if I have the doors closed and this thing running, but just get the shop good and hot and let the car cure, maybe if just for a couple of hours, and then go about my day. But anyway, that's where we're going to end the video. If you have any questions, hit me up in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe.